Ashe, 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 and welcome to the Ashe Shop podcast, the place for people who want to learn about the Orishas and African spiritual practices. I'm Ashley, your Orisha storyteller and guide through the ins and outs of this spiritual journey. Think of this like your weekly spiritual study session. Our studies focus on practices based in the Yoruba pantheon, so you can expect to hear stories from multiple spiritual perspectives, including Isheshe, Lucumi, Santeria, and more. Every week, we're going to dig into a different Orisha, exploring their meaning and influence. I know some of y'all have been waiting on this episode, baby. We just getting started, but I know y'all was waiting on this episode about the beautiful Orisha Yemaya. We have heard her name pronounced so many different ways over the years. Is it Yemaya? Is it Yemoja? What is it? And it's very hard to pronounce, especially coming from an American background speaking English. My mouth was not being put together in the ways it needed to be in order for me to form the word Yemaya or Yemoja, which translates to mean the mother whose children are fish. Yemaya is the personification of motherhood, not to be confused with Mami Wata, who are very close and similar energies, but they're not the same. Yemaya emerges in Western Africa as a river Orisha. She is originally known among the Egba people who settled around the Ibadan regions in the early development of Nigeria. She is considered a white Orisha Funfun, meaning that she literally was there and she is a part of just progress in life and evolution. And we're definitely going to get more into that throughout this episode. Yemaya is considered the beginning of everything, the mother to all creatures inhabiting the waters of the world. She is the water that fed and energized and humidified the earth. Daughter to Olokun, wife to Orumila, she's also known as being the wife to Obatala and Aganju and several other kings. They also say that she was married to Ogun too. She's associated with the number 7, the colors blue, white, also silver. My favorite offering to give to Yemaya is melons. All day, hands down. A melon, you can never go wrong with a melon as an offering to Yemaya. And there's a variety of other things that she likes as offerings, but I definitely encourage you to do your own research and learn some things for yourself. What I do want to share with you is John Mason's description of Yemoja. I think John Mason is one of the best Orisha authors we're going to find out here, but his description of Yemaya is very interesting. So just have a listen. Yemoja, in parentheses, the mother of the children of fishes, is the ultimate symbol and the personification of motherhood, in that she represents the place of origin and the maternal source of divine, human, animal, plant life. The most common symbol of this all encompassing maternity is the ocean. However, in Yoruba land, Yemoja is the owner of the Ogun River, which is the largest river within the territory of ancient Yoruba. In the New World, Yemoja is the Orisha associated with the top layer of the ocean. In most cases, Yemoja represents the birthplace of life on earth. For the ancient Yoruba, it was the rivers that life spawned. For Yoruba taken as slaves in the New World, it was the beaches of the Americas that the new life began. Yemoja is an Orisha of the river, but in the New World, Orisha devotees have taken her to greater proportions. The ocean, her symbol, has been compared to the womb of her new world, and she has been seen as a deliverer of the children of the Middle Passage. I thought this was a very interesting perspective. John Mason is one of the first authors who's not just like, oh my God, Yemaya is this, and she's beautiful, and she's that, and she's just a mother. He really starts to talk about her evolution. And with Yemaya, we really begin to see the evolution of the Orisha, especially when we see how she's perceived by the Yoruba versus her perception within the Lucumi traditions. Yemaya plays a monumental role in the transatlantic slave trade, and I definitely have a story for you later on in this episode. She is identified as the owner of the greatest cemetery in the world, the Atlantic Ocean. There were millions of our ancestors, there were millions of people who did not make that journey for various reasons. We're not getting into that. And the Atlantic Ocean ended up becoming their cemetery. Yemaya is an example of the fact that we must adapt and grow, that we will evolve over time. We literally see her evolve from a river Orisha to a Orisha that represents the ocean. Because think about it, when you hear about Yemaya, you first learned about Yemaya. Did you identify her as a river Orisha? No, Yemaya is the Orisha of the ocean. So let me continue with a little further down in Mace's description. I think this other passage in his book, The Orisha New World's Black Gods, is very, very, very important. Remember, all the resources used today, you can find them in the description. So he goes on to describe Yemoja is the top or euphoric layer of the ocean, which is conducive to the growth of plants and animals, which permits a continuance of life, which is the largest environment for life in the world. The ocean is therefore the most fruitful of surroundings and acts as a womb for the generation of life. Yemaya is motherhood. She embodies the principle of everlastingness. She is the power which gives mankind the ability to exist and to continue to exist. She incubates life in her womb and provides the conditions in which sperm and egg come together and can be transformed. She is the universal principle of survival of the species. She is the procreative urge which causes living things to continue to propagate. Yemoja is the mother of life on earth, from the one-celled animals to human beings. Yemoja allows us to see that life is only possible through her. It was my first Ifa reading I had gotten from a Nigerian Babalawo. This is not my first reading, but the first one I had gotten from a Nigerian Babalawo. And of course, I have to ask him questions because y'all know I'm curious and I'm going to ask. So he does my reading and he starts mentioning Yemaya. And I'm talking to him about her. And he's like, no, it's not Yemaya, it's Yembo who you need to know about. And I'm kind of like, huh? He was like, Yembo is the energy that ends up becoming Yemaya. That's not exactly how he said it, but to put it short, is it possible for us to understand Yemaya without understanding her primordial form? No, it isn't. Yembo is an energy that literally manifests on earth. You see her come up with the other Orisha Funfun. That's why Yemaya is identified as Orisha Funfun, because her energy was there even before people manifested. Her energy contributed to the creation of people. So, if you're kind of like, okay, Ashley, who's Oduduwa and Yembo? There are a lot of resources on them. Of course, I'm going to put some in the description, but one of my favorite is a description written by Esther Fuentes Alvarez, and she discussed the relationship between Oduduwa and Yembo in her book, Lucumi, Yoruba People. So she writes, this is in chapter 2 of her book, Yembo and Oduduwa. The love between these two Orishas is actually the greatest love story ever written on the planet. The union between these two is so beautiful that it still lasts to this day. They both ruled over their corresponding elements. Yembo, under her rule, ruled the water, while Ududua had jurisdiction over the earth. They joined together in marriage to perform the task of populating the earth and begin the process of Orisha evolution. As time passed, Yembo became a magnificent splendor of beauty. Her hair was as dark as night, and she was an exquisite beauty that mesmerized the earth with her femininity. Even after spawning all of humanity, she was one of the most beautiful women in Olodumare's kingdom. Her sensuality and femininity were her gift and also her curse. No one could resist her, and many coveted her bounty. She was a representation of life in all its glory and splendor. There are times when many evil thoughts and eyes try to divide this pair, but they were unsuccessful in their attempts. No one has been able to separate what was destined to be together until the end of time. It is from this union that another Orisha is born on earth, bringing with her the essentials of daily life, Oshun. The day when the love story of these two, meaning Yembo and Odua, will end and the water will separate from the earth will be the day when the end of Olodumare's reign will begin. We see the emergence of new paths or new ways of these Orisha presenting. Yembo ends up literally evolving into Yemaya because of a great trauma. I don't know if some of y'all have heard the story about her relationship with Ogun, and there are a lot of arguments behind that story. Y'all, we're going to do a whole episode about that. We're not talking about that today because it's an entire trigger warning. But we see Yemaya undergo this great trauma, this great just tragedy happens to her. And she ends up not just splitting from Yembo, but Yemaya appears and Nana Baruku appears. And pay attention to the fact that Nana Baruku cannot stand Ogun. She will not be anywhere near him. She said, baby, if you have to make a sacrifice to me, don't even do it with metal. Don't even think about doing it with iron. It's interesting to see here that the emergence of a new path or manifestation of these Orisha do not extinguish the existence of the old one. And this reminds me of how, as we grow and evolve through time, we will add on to who we are, but we can't get rid of who we were. As the story continues, we see Yembo in Odua because Odua ends up becoming who we know as Obatala. We see both of them go through things and learn and endure and survive and just really evolve into the Orisha we know today. And Yemaya has several trials and tribulations along her journey, baby. It's a whole lot that happened to her, and you can find out a little bit of that, not just from the story I'm about to tell you, but in our story times this week, I couldn't decide on 3 stories, so I decided to go with 4. And I hope you enjoy all of those and check out our story times for this week. The story that I chose to really help us gain some perspective into some of the trials and tribulations that Yemaya occurred is when Yemaya saves the white man from the fury of Olokun. You can find this book in the textbook, African Narratives of Orishas, Spirits, and Other Deities by Alex Cuoco. Of course, you can find this in the book list. If you don't purchase any other book, you need to purchase African Narratives of Orishas, Spirits, and Other Deities by Alex Cuoco. So let me tell y'all this story. At this time, we see Yemoja is still residing in the Ogun River in Nigeria. She's still known as the mother whose children are fish. She's really just living her daily life in the river. Yemoja is also identified as the daughter of Olokun. So it was times that she would go from being in the river and taking care of her jobs and duties there, and she would spend time in the ocean, but she didn't really have any responsibilities there. It's kind of like when you move out of your parents' house and you have your own thing, and then you go to your parents' house and visit. That's what it was like when Yemaya would go to the ocean. So when the people from West African tribes were being taken as slaves and captives on slave ships, Yemoja was seeing that these ships were leaving, people were being hauled on ships, and she started following them. So in a way, she knew what was going on, and she ends up spending a little bit more time in the ocean than what she usually does. And Olokun rules the depths of the oceans. Yemoja rules the tops of the oceans. We saw John Mason mentioned that in his book, The New World Black Gods. But Olokun rules over what's at the bottom, like down in the Mariana Trench. That's where Ogun stay at, baby. So Yemoja is kind of following these ships and seeing what's going on. And Olokun's at the bottom, and she's kind of not really thinking about is Olokun gonna see it or what's gonna happen, but she's just kind of more preoccupied with what's immediately going on with the people. They taking out people, they put them on ships, they moving them across the ocean, they just throwing them into the ocean. Like she's just immediately trying to take care of this. But one day Olokun is out swimming. He's out, doing handling his business. He's in his lair at the bottom of the ocean, in the depths of the ocean. And he comes across a body. And he's kind of like, what's a body doing down here? And he swims a little further and he comes across another body and then another one. And he notices every day when he's going out swimming further and further through his domain across the Atlantic Ocean, there are bodies everywhere. And he takes a closer look, seeing that these are his people. These are people from his tribes, people who are his devotees. And he's like, what is going on? So he again notices Yemoja had been there. He's like, she must know something about this. Yemoja, what's going on? Yemoja said, these men, these women, these children are lying dead at the bottom of the kingdom. These are my people. From their tribal marks, I can see where they came from Africa, so you can't hide it from me. What's up? And Yemosha's like, Father, these are captives that were thrown overboard for the slave ships. He said, who did this to them? Yemosha said, some white people, some white men. They're really cruel and mean. They throw them overboard. Olokun said, who gave them permission to take these people away from their homeland to torture and kill them? Yemoja said, it's kind of a long story, but it may be possible that our people have some involvement. They stealing people. Like, it's kind of like they over there taking them by any means necessary. Olokun did not like what Yemaja was saying. He didn't like anything about this. And he was so enraged, he decided to punish the white men for their crime and anybody involved. And the madder Olokun got, the bigger than waves started to get. At his command, gigantic waves began to form and overturn the ships of the white men. The ocean swelled up in the skies, just darkened. Even the people who live far away on the coast could just see huge mountains of water coming their way. When Yemoja saw what was happening, she was like, oh, look, cool, you can't do this. He was like, well, I'm about to get rid of the problem. We getting rid of the ships. We getting rid of the men on the ships. And then, the people on the coast, we don't know if they have something to do with it or not, but we just gonna go ahead and get rid of all of that too. And all of this will be done and over with. And she's like, no, 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 Father. You can't just you can't take all these people out like this. It's cruel. She's like, you have to control your rage and pull back your waters before, you destroy the whole world. Olokun said, I don't have no problem with that. He said, I don't have no problem with that. I didn't want these people here in the first place. Yamosha begged and begged and begged Olokun, rationing with him, trying to get him to understand you can't just end everybody. She was eventually able to help Olokun cool his rage. But they say that every once in a while he gets angry again, and we start to see these great storms and tsunamis and things pop up. Because even though Olokun has soothed his rage, he may have never forgiven the people who did that to his people. Here we see Yemaya move from being a river goddess to taking over the responsibility of the oceans, within the oceans. Does this mean that she no longer has responsibilities within the Ogun River within Nigeria? No. This just means that who she is and her duties and her skills and her expertise is evolving. She saw these atrocities committed against her people and she showed mercy to the transgressors. This is similar to other stories we see previously where things go wrong for Yemaya, and she's not the one trying to necessarily dole out punishment. She's not, the one who's like, well, this happened to me and playing the victim. She's always just kind of like, what can we do to have peace? What can we do to have mercy? If you were in that decision, if you were Yemaya and you saw these atrocities being committed against your people, and you see Olokun decided to spring up and destroy everything, would you have shown mercy? And when I think about it, I'm like, you know what? When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, baby, everything would have been going. I'd have been like, Olokun, you need help? But now that I'm getting older in age, I find that I probably would have shown them mercy. I probably would have erred on the side of peace. I probably would have found a way to allow my people to survive, even though it may not be the way I think it should happen. So, of course, you have homework. Your homework or journal prompts for this week is: how have you evolved over the years? What major lessons have you learned throughout childhood and adolescence and adulthood? And how are these lessons influencing your life today? We give praise to Yemoja, the mother of abundant waters, whose breasts are large and voluptuous, who knows divination as well as Orumila, who protects her children with her waters. When Yemoja is unhappy, she destroys bridges. She gives us answers in our dreams. She is the water of life. May Yemaya's waters wash over you, cleansing you of your worries and your stresses. Ashe, ashe, ashe. The resources used today can be found in the book list at theasheshop.com, where you can also register for classes, book a session with me, and anoint your body with our spiritual bath and body products. Thank you for visiting the Ashe Shop. Ashe, ashe, ashe.